DFX. This was White's flagship unit until Spectre came along. Dual frequency, 3 and 15 kilohertz. Multiple single frequency operation. Now, let me clear something up here. DFX always transmits 2 frequencies. Some people think that you transmit in 3 or transmit in 15. That's wrong. DFX always transmits 2 frequencies. But you can select which frequency you want to process, either the 3 or the 15 kilohertz. So you get all the benefits of dual frequency operation and can still process the signal from either frequency.
Why would you rather have a higher one than a lower one?
Funny you should ask. If you're in a high EMI environment, 3 kilohertz is a 20th multiple of 60 cycles.
Okay.
If I turn off 3 kilohertz and only listen to the 15 kilohertz, all that EMI is just ignored. 15 kilohertz is a good frequency for beach operation, but it's not such a good frequency for high iron mineralization. So I'd want the 3 kilohertz to kick back in for high ferrous. DFX maintains 2 ground balance points simultaneously. So you can set this machine up on the beach and set it in the dry sand and track right down to the wet sand, turn around and track right back to the dry sand seamlessly. You don't have to re-ground balance. DFX also always uses a salt subtraction process. That's one of the reasons it is so quiet. There's a subtraction process, and I don't want to get too technical, and an additive process. The salt subtraction process takes the ground signal and subtracts the salt from it. You lose a little bit of target signal in that process. The additive process takes the ground and adds the target to it. You'll get a little more depth, but you'll get a little more chatter. Tip: with your V3i, if you find yourself in a high EMI environment and you don't want to use frequency offset because you've already got it cranked in and your buddy over here is trying to hunt at something else, just drop into salt compensate mode. 90% of the time, the majority of your EMI will just go away. Your first line of defense with Spectre is frequency offset. Your second is to drop into salt comp. You've got a high definition extended temperature backlit display. This has got a backlight. We have what we call digital signal filtration. You can actually change the number of digital filters that are applied to the target signal. 2 to 6. The higher the mineralization, the more filters you want to use. The more filters you use, you lose a little bit of depth. But it's a good trade-off in that with 2 filters, I might not be able to hunt at all. With 4 filters, I might have a perfectly good day. I can't hunt at all. I can't see targets below 8 inches. I've dug many a good target above 8 inches, I'll tell you. So, sweep speed adjust. Now, you say, how can it? No. It's not your physical sweep speed. What this machine is doing is actually saying, how much time are you spending over the target? This is where DFX and Spectre really come into their own. They allow you to tailor this machine to not only the area that you're hunting, but to your own hunting style. Some folks like to sweep very, very, very slowly. Some people like to sweep faster. And then there are those that, you know, if I could give them a scythe, they could cover 2 acres in 10 minutes, you know, and get my hay in for me. There is a basic rule of metal detecting that I will share with you. If it's not under your coil, you're not going to see it. Okay? Now, that always gets a laugh, but that's a very important tenet when you start tailoring these machines for optimum performance. When you can tell this machine how long I'm over the target, what do I want to do? I want to set that for whatever width of coil that I'm using, right? If I set this timing so I'm here, I'll get a composite target. It won't read an 83 or a 77, or it won't read an 83 or a 20. But more importantly, it won't read that nickel at all. Okay? So, with that knowledge in mind, here's the next thing you need to understand while we're on sweep speed. If I have a 6 by 10 inch DD coil, which these 15 kilohertz machines love, and at 2 feet a second, I say that that takes me a half a second to pass over a target. How long is it going to take this one to pass over a target? 40% less, right? Because if that's a 9.5, if we called it 10, and this is 6.
Yeah.
So, to the target, what apparently happened? I increased my physical sweep speed, right? If that took a half a second, this took a third of a second. Same sweep speed, but my coil's over the whole target. I need to tell the machine that so it can optimize its own performance. Anything pre-DFX you had to accommodate by slowing down your physical sweep speed. Here's a tip. Your sweep speed should follow your coil size. As your coil size goes down, your physical sweep speed needs to go down to give the machine the same amount of target signal to process. That all makes sense? Perfectly clear? Clear as mud? I see a lot of this. That's an important thing. Sweep speed, and you're going to hear another one called recovery delay when we get to spectra. But what that is how long the machine is shut down processing that target. If I have a 10-inch coil and I'm processing the edge to edge, because I'm now amongst a room full of believers where if your coil's not over it, you're not going to see it. If I go edge to edge and I have my recovery delay set twice that long, what am I doing? My machine is blind if I pass over another target.
Right, there's a lot of it.
Ha! Unless it's already decayed down to about 25%, and then another target can override it. We built a little window in there. But if you came right off of that edge and there was another good target right next to it, chances are you're not going to see it, or it's going to come in as trash. So it's important that you tell the truth to the machine. These machines are getting more like computers every day. Garbage in, garbage out.
Now, you say
Okay.
you normally have your own pace that you go.
Yes, sir.
Right. That's physical.
That's physical sweep speed.
That's right. Now, you have a control where you can adjust the sweep speed on your machine.
Mhm. And that's telling the machine, based on my physical sweep speed, that's how long the time on target. If you were an old weapon systems developer, you say, how in a cat hair am I ever going to figure that out? You're not. You're going to go out on the White's website, and I've built a chart here that says anywhere between a half a foot a second and 4 feet a second with a 10-inch, 9.5, 6-inch, or 4-inch wide coil. This is how long you're going to be on top of the target. Or basically, if I'm using this coil, this is how fast I want to set my sweep speed. For those
How
that are
fast
running
is the machine manufactured set at?
2 feet a second, that's the standard. That's like, if we said this is 4 feet, that's like Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2. Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2.
It's not till 4
back
o'clock in the
and forth.
afternoon that I go that slow.
Well, most people swing a lot faster than they think they do. Now, it'll accommodate, as you've seen, as fast as you
Yeah.
want to go. But the faster you go, the shorter you need to set your recovery delay, or the faster you need to set your sweep speed. Okay? But, on the White's website, I built this chart for you. If you're running a 6-inch coil and you're sweeping at 2 feet a second, you want to set your recovery delay to 55. And I even put a little 5% fudge factor in there for edge effect in case you're running really, really hot. Now, if you do that, these coils, especially the deep null coils, can actually see a target outside maybe a half an inch or so, either side of it. And it'll start tracking to that target before the coil actually ever gets there. So I built a little fudge factor in for you.
How would I change that to 12 inch now? That I got the 12 inch?
How would you, in which machine?
Like you go up to 10 inch in your chart.
That's because it comes to a 12-inch standard. I didn't duplicate what's in the chart. Any of these coils will work on.
No,
The
what I'm
factory
saying-
default's at 12-inch coil, the factory default on the speed?
No, the factory defaults they're calibrated to the 9.5 inch,
Okay.
or the stock 950
Okay,
we call it.
What you're saying then is the smaller your coil is, the slower you have to swing it.
That's what you should do. You should slow down a little bit.
Because otherwise you're passing over them.
Well,
It doesn't
you're not
recover.
given, let's just, without getting real technical for everybody, let's say it takes me 5 time samples, 5 looks at a target to tell you exactly what it is. Okay? Now, how fast does 5 looks happen? I want you to bear with me. I want you to blink your eyes. Go like that. Okay? That's 250 milliseconds. The machine took about 10 looks at the target when you did that. Okay? So by slowing down that little 4x6 inch DD, you're not hurting yourself any. You're helping yourself a lot.
How about if the coil is a combination of DD and concentric? What happens there? Some of the coils are that way.
I don't know. I only use and I only recommend White's OEM coils.
Oh,
And the reason I say that is because those are the coils that are built and optimized to perform with that machine. There are a lot of good aftermarket coils out there, but I can't do all these calculations for every coil that comes down the pipe. If you had another coil from another manufacturer that was close to the size, I would use these numbers, the closest thing that you got. Like if you're, instead of a 6x10, if you had a 5x7, use the 6x10. It'll be close.
Why is it when you're sweeping, sometimes, maybe I'm going too fast, I'll get like a 78, and then you go again and then come down to 32, and then down, and then it'll settle off maybe at 30 or 28.
There's two features within DFX called accumulation and averaging. This thing doesn't just take one look. It takes multiple looks, and it says, okay, the first time it looked like a 78. Now I got a second sample. Oh, I know more about the target now. Now I know more about the target. Okay? So the accumulation, you'll see your bar build up, and the averaging actually averages out a number of samples of your target. You can use that to your advantage if you think that you've got some adjacent target masking. If you just narrow up your sweep, just wiggle your coil back and forth like that, and you see it settle out at 78, and you widen your sweep, and you see it go back to 52 or something like that, what do you know? You know you got something over here that's dragging this 78 composite VDI down to 52. So what do you know about that? You know that ferrous is in the low numbers, right? So you've either got a nickel or something next to that 78 dime. So you just wiggle your coil till you're happy with that, pinpoint on that little spot, clear it, and then go back and check again. A lot of times you'll find there's a nickel or maybe an old engine head, and it might be in a piece of deep ferrous, but
Could it possibly be a bottle cap?
it could.
Yes.
It could. It could, but if you'll run correlate mode, you'll get rid of about half of those, as long as they're the old steel ones.
Okay.
Okay? There's 9 turn on and go programs available. Remember, what do we have to do to get out of the car and go hunting? We turn it on, we set the knob, we go, right? Well, on this one, we look at our menu and it says preset programs. So we select coins and jewelry. Raise the loop to the waist level and press enter. Lower it to the ground and press enter. Unable to balance, installing presets. Okay? Dual frequency. Notice I never touched the tracking on this.
You have it off now?
No, I haven't pinpoint. This is a foot, folks. Can you hear that change? You hear that? That's 10 inches in free air without ground balancing, letting it track. These machines are good for a foot on a quarter. Okay? Now, we go from the knobs to everything is completely menu driven. We selected our program. Next thing we do is our basic program adjustments. Target volume. Everything with the tip of your finger. Threshold adjustment. Audio discriminate. Silent search. I can make this look just like DFX. Or I'm sorry, just like M6. If I turn that on, if I turn silent search on, I get rid of my threshold. Mixed mode. I can hear the audio from the all metal channel and the discriminate channel simultaneously.
You recommend going in mixed mode?
I love it.
I
You
do too, but you get the high and you get the low, and sometimes you get a lot of trash you gotta get out of it.
Mm-hmm. but there's a proper way to balance that too. Remind me to
I wanted to
talk to you after the AC sensitivity. AC, why do we call it AC? Motion. This is your motion sensitivity. Now you're starting to see power of the microprocessor. The ability of DFX and Spectra to absolutely tailor the machine to however you want it and to the environment that you're in. This is going to be a thing you're going to hear in a minute called preamp gain from the coil to here. Now we're adjusting inside the box. How sensitive do you want the machine to be when it's in motion? DC sensitivity. How sensitive do you want it to be when it's not in motion? To pinpoint. We've got a backlight. A little light come on.
Do you ever adjust the DC?
For those of you that want to hunt at night. Viewing angle, you can change. I never change it, but it's how the sunlight hits your display. Audio adjustments. Ratchet pinpointing. This is a pinpointing aid. I usually turn it off, but if you go over your coil back and forth like this, every time you pass over it, it will detune your machine a little bit, make it less and less sensitive. But with VCO, I recommend that you turn ratchet pinpointing off. Your tracking speed. Remember with the others, we had salt beach, or we had regular ground. With this machine, you can pick anything in between, any tracking speed you want. Tone ID. If we turn Tone ID on, and anytime you want to quit this menu, you just pull the trigger and you're back to hunting. If you turn Tone ID on, you'll discover that anybody remember how many tones M6 had?
6.
7. Anybody got any idea how many tones this machine has?
200?
191.
Ooh.
191 individual tones. If you get them all memorized, call me and I'll send you a prize. Okay.
What's the VCO? Really, what is that VC?
Voltage controlled oscillator.
Changes pitch as it goes.
What's it?
It changes pitch as you get closer to
That's
the.
as you get, remember we, okay, VCO, I'm going to turn it on for you. When I go to pinpoint mode, hear that? Okay. When it's the loudest in that direction, and the loudest in that direction, it's dead under your coil, right in the middle of that hole. Okay? Now, some people will say, I want to hunt all metal mode, so I just flip the trigger forward. Okay? What's wrong with that problem? What's wrong with that approach?
Oh, to cover a little spot.
No, 'cause you're covering the whole thing. This machine's really smart. It knows when you pinpoint, you want to pinpoint. What's not happening?
No discrimination.
What's not happening? I'm not tracking the target out. I turn target tracking off. If I turn tracking off, I'll also turn the ground tracking off. So if you hunt with the trigger forward, a lot of MXT guys do this because that's an alternate mode. If you hunt with the trigger forward, you've lost all your ground tracking. So what you want to do is use your SAT, your tracking speed, to accommodate your ground. Don't turn your tracking off. Okay, back to the menu. We've got Pro options. I want to turn the ratchet pinpointing off. GEB and tracking. Auto track. On or off? Somebody asked about how do I turn my tracking off? Auto track. On or off, right there.
Put it off if you get up near the fence.
Track view. Track view just puts up a little thing on the bottom of your display that says I'm tracking, I'm tracking, I'm tracking, I'm tracking. I turn it off. I have enough to pay attention to. I'm paying this machine to track. I believe it's going to track. It don't have to tell me, you know. I can smell supper cooking. I know my wife's doing a good job. I don't need to be out in the kitchen. Next thing I'll be washing dishes.
Smart guy.
Auto track speed. Auto track offset. These machines give you the option of a little look ahead, where if your ground is changing fast, you can tell this thing track a little faster, anticipate the idea that I may be running into some quartz and then a hole in the ground and then some iron and then a hole in the ground or something like that. Use a little positive or negative offset. If you're going to go look for somebody's small gold ring, an earring, you have little hands, a tiny little wedding band like that, that's small in size, give yourself a +1 offset. It'll help you nail that small target faster. It will be more sensitive to the ground change. Track inhibit is on. Now, that's not to be confused with the track display. Track inhibit says when I pinpoint, remember we held the target over there and it didn't track it out? That's because track inhibit is on. You don't want the machine to track out a target. Now you can turn that track inhibit off if you want to. Don't know why you'd want to. It's a feature that, like on the beach machine, it's always tracking, so you actually need a little motion to pinpoint. This machine will let you look at your ground exclusion balance, GEB, coarse and fine. Now, the machine automatically sets it for you. This is just information. Unless you really want to become a power user of this machine, and then you can go in and go through this process that you read the VDI of the air, you read the VDI of the ground, you convert the VDI to a GEB number, and then you change your coarse GEB. And you say, I positively, absolutely, without a shadow of doubt, eliminated the last morsel of mineralization that there is. And you're so proud of yourself, and you pull a trigger and you say, I didn't turn off tracking. So you've gone through this 10-minute process to get it exactly right, turn the machine back on, and it says, I don't want that, I want something else. If you do that enough times, you'll remember to turn off tracking. If that sounds like the voice of experience, it's because it is. Okay, discriminate edit. One of the most powerful features of DFX, the predecessor XLT, and Spectra. You can tell this machine exactly which VDI you want to see and exactly which VDI you don't want to see. VDI by VDI, all 191 of them. From -95 to +95, you can see them all. including 0. You can see, I can set this machine up literally to only see quarters. I can set this machine up to literally only see nickels. I can set this machine up to literally only see nickels, quarters, and nothing else. Now, I don't know why I would do that, because I'm giving away all that gold. But again, if you wanted to cherry pick, you can make yourself a little program. See where it says here, 4 custom programs? You can build yourself a program that will allow you to walk into the park and only find dimes and quarters. Not a piece of trash, nothing else. If you want to open it up a little more, it'll find silver coins and silver jewelry, and nothing else. You can tailor it to exactly what you want it to do and save that program. So instead of hopping out, cranking your knob, you hop out, load your program called Cherry Pick, and go hunt. Okay? You can also change these factory preset programs and run them, and it will save all your settings until you either take the battery out or reload something else. If you turn your program or turn your computer off, or yeah, if you turn your metal detector off and you've got all these settings and you say, I forgot to save it, just turn it back on, and without doing anything else, pull the trigger. Your settings are all saved for you, and then you can go into the process that says save, name, and you'll have captured all the work you did for the day. So you didn't lose anything. That's an important thing, because you can go, like, I have a coin and jewelry program that is proven over the years and years and years to work most everywhere. But there are some places that I go that have a big power transformer. I'll take the coin and jewelry program, load it up, and the first thing I do is go to single frequency 15 kilohertz. That's nice and quiet. Now, I don't want to use up 4 custom programs. I don't want to have 2 versions of my coin and jewelry program out there. One with 15 kilohertz and one with dual frequency, right? So just know that you can change the factory programs, or you can change your custom programs, and the machine will save them for you until you load something else or until you pull the batteries out. Or for 10 years. I figure if you haven't used it in 10 years, you probably didn't know what it did anyway. But they advertise 10 years. There's 2 features, a block edit and a single VDI edit. Block edit says, I want to change everything here to no. So you just set this boundary and push the button once, everything's wiped out. Or you can say no, 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 yes, yes, no. It's flexible as it can be. DFX has a learn mode. You're out playing with the grandchildren and you lose one of your diamond stud earrings. You can take the other one, find a clean piece of ground, turn on Learn Accept, and pass the coil over the remaining earring. Note the VDI. Turn off Learn Accept. Start hunting. This machine knows what that earring looks like and will find it. Conversely, it has a Learn Reject. If you're in an old house site and they took the roof off and your ground is just surrounded with roofing nails, get a couple of those roofing nails, throw them down and say Learn Reject. Teach it what you don't want it to see, and it won't see those VDIs. You can go pick your coins and stuff right out of that field of nails. See what I'm telling you? That's coming clear now about the ability to tailor these machines to your style and your environment. Recovery speed. Up to here, it's fixed. Here you can change your recovery speed.
That's in the pro option?
That's in the pro option. Bottle cap reject.
But then you lose a lot when you do that.
What's that?
When you put bottle top reject, you can lose a lot of other stuff.
In a point discriminator, you're absolutely right. But in DFX and Spectra, it controls one thing: how the machine deals with ferrous targets.
So you don't lose it.
Nope. The only thing that you might lose is a little bit of depth if you crank it all the way back, all the way just as high as it'll go. Discriminate, edit, block edit, learn, bottle cap reject. There's 20. There's as high as bottle cap reject will go. Nickels? Copper? Now, notice what I have to do here. This you're going to appreciate this in a minute. Notice that I have to go back through the menu to get to here, to set this back to the factory default of 4. And how did I know it's 4? Because I know DFX inside and out. Spectre is going to take you right back to the menu where you left it to get your adjustment the way you want it. And it's going to show you whether it's the factory preset or not. Hot rock reject. If you want to use this machine to prospect in the 15 kilohertz mode, just like MXT, then this has the single feature that says, this is how I want to process hot rocks, or some people call them cold rocks. It's a bit of mineralization that's different from the rest of the ground mineralization. That's why they call it a hot rock. Sweep speed. Right now it's defaulted to 10, okay? And that's a good middle-of-the-road sweep speed for a 10-inch coil. There's no correlation between 10 and a 10-inch coil and 4 and a 4-inch coil. But what you want to do is, let's say that, for argument's sake, I put a 12-inch coil on this. This was a DFX 300, right? What should I do to sweep speed?
Increase it.
Increase it?
Sure. You have bigger coil.
Bigger coils over the target longer, so decrease it.
Okay, I want to kick it down to 6. Actually, it was on 10. I want to kick it down to 8 to where it should be. Okay? Now, if I've told you right, I've got a sweep speed here now that should still, even though this is a smaller coil, accommodate this quarter, right? Edge to edge. Okay? Now, if I told you right, I ought to be able to see 2 targets. Now, could I hear those better? If I turned on tone ID, I'd actually hear 2 separate targets. Okay? That's another reason to run with tone ID on. With me? Okay. So we'll just leave that there for a minute. go down to multi-frequency method. Right now, I'm in two frequency correlate mode, which says, look at the signal from the 3 kilohertz. Look at the signal from the 15 kilohertz. Is the target return from the 15 kilohertz the same within a given window as the return from the 15 kilohertz? If it's not within that window, it's probably trash. Why? A conductive target, such as a quarter, I like a quarter because it's a good 1-inch target, and that's kind of a standard, you know. Will give you on your spectrograph one good line. Iron, especially an upside down bottle cap, will smear. It'll give you 4 or 5 lines. So there's a tip for you. If you're getting something in the 50s and 60s, and it's got a little breakup to it, look at your spectrograph. If it's an Indian head penny, it'll be consistent. If it's a bottle cap, you'll have 4 or 5 lines. Try that. A spectrograph is an absolutely wonderful tool. Now, if I wanted to hunt with VDI normalized, all these machines so far normalize the return to the old. Remember I told you if you learned it in 1982, you learned it, you know it today. This machine says, I'll let you run in a non-normalized mode. And the non-normalized mode says, instead of adjusting these things, I'm going to give you the raw data. So instead of seeing a 20 for a nickel, you'll get a 46. Now, that's good and that's bad. That's good because it takes a pull tab and turns it into a 32 and takes a nickel and turns it into a 46. So you can separate nickels and pull tabs. But what it also does is scrunch everything way up here at the top together. Now, to me, that's not a big deal, because if it's over 50, I dig it anyway. I can't think of anything with the possibility of an aluminum screw cap now and again that's above 50 that I don't want to dig. Gold rings, silver rings, all the silver coins, Indian head pennies. Most of the gold coins are all above 50. So here's another tip for you. If it's bigger than 50, dig it.
Do you dig above 50 if it's got, in polar mode, it shows that it's like got garbage to it? You still do that?
Yep.
I dig 48.
Yep. Because I don't know what's sitting next to it.
Okay.
You don't either. That 50 that you're seeing with the different things might be a silver dollar next to this piece of broken horseshoe. If it's better than 50, it gets a dig. Okay, single frequency 3 kilohertz, one frequency 15 kilohertz, and we're back to the top. So you can see all the adjustments that right there at your fingertip. The ability to tailor this machine to see exactly what you want to see, to hunt the dry sand, the wet sand, to hunt the battlefield, to go prospect, to coin shoot, coin and jewelry, cherry pick. You can set this machine up any way you want. But until you get used to it, it comes with a coins program. It comes with a coin and jewelry program. Now, the only difference between the coin and the coin and jewelry program is the amount of discrimination. The coins program has more discrimination. It's knocking out the pull tabs and stuff like that. Coins and jewelry is bringing everything in. Jewelry and beach uses a faster tracking system and a little more gain. All the things you've heard about here this morning already. Relic uses mixed mode. And prospecting uses an all-metal mode and a faster tracking.